here's Brody Brazil.
You know, in recent times, a lot of people, including myself, have asked the question about baseball, is it being passed by? Is baseball too stuck in its ways? Is it too traditional? Does it stick to too many rules and old-fashioned thoughts? Has it not evolved properly so that the next generation of fans can embrace it? But here I am in 2023 with a host of new rule changes again, and I've got to tell you, I really think that baseball has recognized something in the last 5 years. They've gotten the message. They're making changes. These were not done overnight. Everything is well thought out and methodical and well executed. I'm here to share with you my favorite and biggest MLB rule changes, really all of them in the last 5 years. And I also think you could make the argument baseball has improved its game, improved its product, and helped itself more in the last 5 years than it did in the prior 50 years combined, right? Baseball didn't change a lot from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even to the 2000s and 2010s. It's really been late 2010s and the start of these 20s where baseball has evolved and adapted for the better. So these are my favorites. They come in no particular order, but let's begin with the old courtesy runner, which famously, or infamously for some, started in the 2020 season. They needed to get games over with. They didn't want a ton of extra innings or travel issues, so they figured out a way to put a runner starting at second base for every half inning. This rule still exists today. I mean, they could have wiped it out for 2021. They could have wiped it out for 22. They could have wiped it out for 23. I'm so happy that they kept it. And I'm so happy, sounds weird, right? But that we have not seen hardly any 13th innings for teams across the last couple of years. I've always said, you want to be on the edge of your seat at the end of a game for a little while. But once we get to the 13th and 14th and 17th and 18th inning, I mean, you might as well have played a doubleheader that day. It's hard to keep fans totally invested and energized and with any energy by the 13th, 14th, 15th inning. But I'm telling you, I haven't seen my team, the A's, play a 13th inning, I don't think, since 2019, when there wasn't this courtesy runner rule. I know a lot of people call it a ghost runner, a courtesy runner, whatever it is at second base, that obviously is supposed to help influence teams scoring extra inning runs, and it usually works. We usually see games end in the 10th, or even sometimes in the 11th, or even rarely in the 12th, but hardly ever in a 13th inning situation. I also like the fact that they said, look, this is the way we're going to end regular season games, but in no way, shape, or form should this be used in the postseason. And they've stuck to that, and I give baseball credit that they realize the regular season has a different weight to it, a different volume of games, and they'll do this rule, and they'll keep this rule for the regular season. So I'm here to tell you, I understand that it's not traditional baseball. Some people call it a gimmick. You got to have these games come to a conclusion. You're only using more pitchers, more players. There's only more chances of things going wrong when games go that long. So to end them efficiently, I think this is a good way to do it. How about the designated hitter in the National League? Go back and tell yourself in the 90s that, you know what, the pitchers aren't going to hit anymore. We're going to have a DH in both leagues. The American League introduced the DH in 1973. The National League obviously only started last year. Yeah, it boosts the offense. You actually get a professional hitter in there in the National League as the ninth batter instead of a specialty hitter. But I also think a cool part about this is, take Albert Pujols last year, who got to go back and play for the St. Louis Cardinals because defensively, if he had to be in that lineup, he may not be in there all the time. This offers more jobs for more veteran hitters later in their career. You don't have to just come to an American League team to get the hitting-only opportunity. You can now play for a National League team as well, too. So I kind of like it in the sense of, more offense, but more jobs. I think we should do both leagues the same way. If you told me that the pitcher was going to hit in the National League and that wasn't going to change, I think I might actually request that the American League has pitchers hit too. I don't think anybody would have liked that. I don't think National League pitchers like that either, to say, why do I have to hit? Why do I have to embarrass myself? I need to worry about pitching. All the American League hitters don't have to do this. Why do I have to do it? I guess I'm just glad that we chose one way for both leagues, and that's how we play it. I get it. It was something unique for each. It didn't seem fair here in modern times. Okay, next on the list is the 3-batter minimum. Managers hate this. Another 2020 rule, which is still intact, which cuts game time down. They thought this was one of the first ways to shorten games. So when you think about it, it's not often. It happens sometimes that you might have 3 different pitchers to get 3 different outs in one inning. And there's a lot of pitching changes and manager or pitching coach visit to the mound, and it just slows things down. But how much are we shaving off here? To have that visit, to have the warm-ups, maybe 5 minutes per game, that's just not a lot. The pitch timer, which we'll talk about, that has dramatically cut down game times by about a half hour. But I don't know that this 3-batter minimum ever did that. However, I still like to see it from a strategy standpoint. I like the fact that if you're bringing in Johnson, Johnson's got to face the next 3, unless the inning ends or unless Johnson suffers a legitimate injury or illness. I like the fact that there are those caveats. You're not going to force somebody to pitch through a busted elbow or whatnot. So I don't really think this affected time like baseball thought it would. I like it more in a strategy sense that if you're bringing in somebody, you're not just doing the lefty specialist here. They're going to have to face 3 batters. You're going to have to look ahead at who said pitcher is about to face in the lineup. Okay, the pitch timer. I got a separate video on this. I'm huge on the pitch timer. I heard about it in the minor leagues last year. I watched some of those games. I had loosely understood it, but it just was hard to apply to what a big league game would look like. And even in spring training, got a better sense and a better taste of it. I love the times that they picked out. 30 seconds between hitters, 20 seconds to pitch if there's a runner on base or runners on base, and 15 seconds between pitches if the bases are empty. It's new for 2023. It's cutting games down by about a half hour. The big league average in 2022 was 3 hours, 10 minutes. Now we're down to the 230, 240 range, which is much more digestible. It's much more fan-friendly, young fan-friendly. It's more East Coast friendly for the West Coast games that end super late out by the Atlantic. There's clear rules on this. Everybody understands what a clock is. It's very much black and white. There's not a lot of gray area to say, well, we need to review this. No, there's no reviewing it. The clock is the clock. It's easy to see. It adds pace. It adds strategy. The pitch timer adds urgency. And again, take yourself back to 2017 and tell yourself that baseball is going to have a clock on the field, not just between innings to try and keep it to 2.5 minutes per pitch and between batters. We're going to have a clock that constantly ticks down. You would have said, no way, no stinking way. You would have said, no way in heck. Or maybe it would have sounded like, no way.
No way.
No way.
You would have said all those things. But here we are with shorter games, much more efficient, and a healthy pace, right? It's not just the short term of every at-bat that gets you on the edge of your seat. It's the game. You feel like you're making progress, and a game is moving along. It's got a purpose every single game with these clear rules in the pitch timer. I've been loving the pitch timer. Also, the schedule format. Maybe less of a rule change, but something major that's been implemented here in 2023. Every team in the big leagues faces every other team, American or National League, at least in one series. Divisional games used to be 19 apiece per team in your division. You used to face each team 19 times. The division largely was like half your schedule. It would decide if you made the playoffs or not for a lot of teams on the bubble. Now it's down to only 13 divisional games. And I love geography. I love the rivalry. I love all that stuff. But I also like the fact that my team, the A's, will get to play the Mets and Marlins and Nats and Phillies this year and Atlanta. And you get a taste of everybody. Cincinnati, the Rockies, Padres, the whole NL West. You get to see everybody at least in one series. So from 19 to 13 divisional games, but on the flip side, from only 20 interleague games to 46. That's a lot, right? That's a lot of American versus National League teams. You're going to pretty much see interleague baseball in a couple series at a time throughout the season. Remember when it used to be, okay, here's the 2-week span of all the teams doing interleague. And then there's another 2-week span. Then they kind of mixed it up. Now it's literally from April to October. Some opening series saw interleague teams facing each other. So I like this. again, it's a fun adaptation for fans. It's something that I can't believe baseball would have been doing 5 or 10 years ago. Okay, how about the removal of the defensive shift? It's gone. Some people didn't mind it. Some people absolutely hated it. There's a defined infield, right? How do you make up these rules? Well, there's dirt and there's grass. Simple. Infielders need to be on the dirt. They also need to be on one side of the infield or the other. How do you mark down the middle of the field? Well, it's simple. Second base is right there. Shortstop, you're on this side. Second baseman, you're on this side. Now, it's meant to promote hits. I guess we'll find out this season how many ground balls get through the infield, more or less, or maybe it's just the same. Maybe the balls that were hit routinely to second base that weren't fielded because the second baseman was up the middle or the shortstop was somewhere else, maybe we see less of those get through, but maybe we see more of the hits up the middle get through, or maybe we don't. You can still put your shortstop essentially almost right behind second base. You only have to be there once the pitch is delivered. You can be on the move if you want. So there are some hacks. There's also this hack too. I don't think anybody has stopped a team from putting their left fielder in short right field, like next to the second baseman, where the shortstop used to go, like on the shift for a left-handed batter. But then you have to play with two outfielders. So it does come at a cost. It's not a complete hack, but there are other ways around this. I can't wait to see how some teams decide to use this. Here's another rule from 2022. It was implemented last year. If I would have told you, hey, the pitcher and catcher and some position players on the field are going to have walkie-talkies called PitchCom. Yeah, they're not going to give signs anymore. The old 2-1, heater on the inside corner. No. None of that. They're going to push a button and there's going to be a transmitter for the catcher and a receiver for the pitcher, a receiver for a couple other position players too. Check this out. Each team on the field can have up to 2 transmitters. Now, more than one doesn't make a lot of sense, but they can have up to 2 transmitters. They can have up to 5 receivers, meaning that usually the pitcher and the catcher can have one. Pitcher has one in their hat. Catcher can have one in their helmet, and then there's kind of an earpiece that comes down so the batter isn't here. You can also have your second baseman, your shortstop, and your center fielder have receivers to understand what pitch is coming. I'm not sure a lot of people knew about that. But I digress. Walkie-talkies on the field, something battery-powered on a baseball field? Now, a lot of this they thought was implemented to avert the whole Astros trash can sign stealing scandal of yesteryear, but maybe it has averted that. But maybe technology was going to happen anyway here. Can you believe that? 5 years ago. We're going to introduce walkie-talkies essentially on the field. Hard to fathom back then. But here we are, and I don't even think most fans even know about it or think about it anymore. I certainly do. I remember when it came in, it was a big deal and a big difference. But look, those are a handful of things right there that baseball has done differently. I've got to give them credit. I was one, like I said, for many years who would look at them and say, are you guys paying attention? Are you going to change your game? Are you just going to, kind of let the chips fall where they may and think that fashion is going to come back to you and your outdated ways? But give baseball a lot of credit. They have completely evolved. They've progressed. They've gotten better. And I think these rule changes all improve the experience that you, the fan, have. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thumbs up on this video if you liked it, if it provided you some thought or value. And don't forget, subscribe to this channel so that I can definitely see you next time.